I paid off my daughter's $85,000 student loans. I worked double shifts for years, eating ramen and canned soup, just so she could start her life debt-free. The day I needed $500 for my heart medication, she looked at me without blinking and said, "Mom, at 78, why do you want to keep spending money?" And while I was close to dying, she took my house. I'm 78, and today I'm going to tell you how the daughter I sacrificed my entire life for left me to die on the doorstep of my own home. But before I get to that betrayal, I need you to understand everything I gave for her. My name is Hope. What an irony, right? Because for a long time I lost all hope in humanity, in my own blood. Let me take you 15 years back, when Nicole, my only daughter, ran into our little house in Queens, New York with a letter in her hands. Her eyes were shining with an emotion I hadn't seen in her for years. "Mom, I got accepted to medical school." I remember I was making fried eggs with toast on the stove. The smell of frying butter filled the kitchen. I dropped everything and hugged her so tight I could feel her heart beating against my chest. My girl was going to be a doctor. After being widowed at 51, after cleaning offices for years, after selling cupcakes and brownies on weekends, finally something good was coming into our life. You did it, sweetheart. I'm so proud. What I didn't know was that the acceptance letter came with a price: $250,000 in student loans, 6 years of school, books, scrubs, materials, transportation. Nicole sat down at the worn wooden table where we'd eaten dinner together for so many years. "Mom, it's a lot of money. Maybe it's not the time." "Don't be silly," I interrupted. "We'll find a way. We always do." And so, my second job began. Or better said, my third job. From Monday to Friday, I cleaned 3 houses from 6 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. Then I rushed to my shift at a diner in Midtown, where I washed dishes until 11 at night. On weekends, I baked and sold apple pies and blueberry muffins. I got up at 4 in the morning to get the oven ready. My hands, oh, my hands. They became calloused, burned, and cracked from the bleach and cold water. But every time I saw Nicole studying late, surrounded by huge anatomy textbooks, I felt every blister was worth it. Do you know how many double shifts I worked? Not even I know. I lost count after the first year. My life became a routine of survival. Work, pay, sleep, 4 hours, repeat. I stopped going to the doctor when the chest pains started. "It's just nerves," I told myself. There was no time or money for my ailments. I remember once, Nicole found me asleep on the sofa, still wearing my diner uniform, smelling of grease and onions. It was 3 in the morning. I had just arrived. "Mom, this is too much. You don't have to kill yourself for me." I stroked her face. "My girl, I've already lived my life. Now it's your turn. I won't let you lose this opportunity." But now, with everything I know, I wonder if at that moment she felt gratitude, or if she just calculated how much my sacrifice was going to cost her. For 6 full years, I paid every dollar of that university. $1,500 here for books, $3,000 there for clinical scrubs, $5,000 for a specialized course. When I didn't have enough, I pawned things. First, it was the gold chain my late husband gave me for our anniversary. Then, my mother's silver earrings. I ate ramen and canned soup almost every day. White rice with a fried egg if I was lucky. Black coffee with day-old bagels that the corner bakery gave me. Sometimes, Mrs. Rodriguez, my neighbor, would leave a small plate of chicken pot pie at my door because she had extra. We both knew it was a lie, but I accepted it with all the dignity I had left. Nicole graduated with honors. I watched her cross that stage in her white gown and cap, receiving her Doctor of Medicine degree. I cried so much I could barely see her. They were tears of pride, relief, and exhaustion. We did it, Mom. We did it together. Together. That word gave me strength to continue. Then came 3 more years of specialization, another $120,000 in debt. By that time, I was 70 and my body was starting to collect the bill for so much abuse. But I couldn't stop. It was so close. Finally, at 73, I made the last payment, $250,000 in total. Every cent earned with the sweat of my wrinkled brow and my ruined hands. Nicole was now an established cardiologist working at a private hospital in Manhattan. She had married David, an architect with a good family name and a better bank account. They lived in a beautiful house in the Hamptons. They had 2 children, Sam at 14 and Mia at 12. I was still in my little house in Queens, the same house where Nicole grew up, where her father died of a heart attack when she was 15. 2 small bedrooms, a backyard with my lemon tree and my petunias, and that kitchen where I could still smell the breakfasts I made all my life. I thought I could finally rest. That Nicole, now successful and debt-free, would help me a little. I didn't expect her to support me, just, that she'd call more often, visit me, ask how I was. But the visits began to space out. First it was once a week, then every 2 weeks. After that, only on holidays, and always in a rush. Sorry, Mom, I have surgery early tomorrow. Mom, the kids have homework. Mom, David and I have an important dinner. I nodded, smiled, and made their favorite meal during the few hours they gave me. And when they left, I was alone in that house that suddenly felt too big, too silent. But I didn't complain. Because a good mother asks for nothing in return. Or so I thought. Until my heart really started to fail. And I discovered she had already begun planning how to get rid of me. But that part comes later. If you want to know how my own daughter betrayed me in the cruelest way you can imagine, stay until the end of this story. Because I need someone to know the truth. And if you've ever felt like you gave everything for someone who didn't appreciate it, this story is for you too. Subscribe to the channel to keep following real stories that need to be told. I thought I was building her future. I was financing my own destruction. During the first few months after finishing her loan payments, I felt lighter for the first time in 15 years. As if I had carried a sack of cement on my back for so long that I no longer remembered what it felt like to walk straight. Nicole seemed like the perfect daughter in everyone's eyes. Successful, elegant, always with the right words at family gatherings. When my cousin Rachel asked about her, I swelled with pride. She's a cardiologist, at Mount Sinai. She treats only important patients. What I didn't tell them was that I hadn't seen her in 2 months. The phone calls became more infrequent, colder. When I called, she always answered with that tone when someone is busy and you are an interruption. Mom, I'm with a patient. I'll call you later. But later never came. When we finally saw each other, something had changed in her look. She was no longer the girl who hugged me with gratitude. She was a rushed woman, checking her watch every 5 minutes, sighing when I told her about the lemon tree or about Mrs. Rodriguez. Mom, you shouldn't be working so much anymore. At your age, you've done enough. That phrase. The first time I heard it, it filled me with tenderness. I thought she was worried about me, that she finally wanted to give back some of what I had given. How naive I was. One Sunday, 3 months after the last debt payment, Nicole came to visit with David and the children. It was rare for them all to come together. I made roast chicken with gravy, mashed potatoes, and homemade biscuits. I got up at 5 in the morning so everything would be perfect. Sam and Mia barely hugged me before taking out their phones and sitting on the sofa. David was polite, as always, but distant. Nicole inspected the house with a look I couldn't decipher at the time. Mom, this house is getting too big for you alone. I poured myself a glass of water. My hands were shaking a little. Lately, they were shaking often. It's my home, sweetheart. You grew up here. Yes, I know. She interrupted me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. But think about it. 2 stories, stairs, that yard that needs maintenance. It's a lot of work for a woman your age. David coughed uncomfortably. Nicole shot him a quick glance that I couldn't interpret. Besides, Mom, with all the effort you made for me, it's time for you to rest. to live peacefully, without worries. There was that phrase again. You've done enough. As if my useful life had come to an end. As if I had fulfilled my function and was now surplus. But I still didn't see the trap. That night, after they left, leaving the kitchen full of dirty dishes that I washed alone, I sat on the living room sofa. The same sofa where I rocked Nicole when she was a baby, where I read her stories, where I comforted her when her father died. Something heavy settled in my chest. It wasn't just tiredness. It was a feeling I didn't want to name yet. The following weeks, Nicole started visiting more frequently, but not to spend time with me. She came with pretexts. Mom, let me review your documents. You need to have everything in order. Mom, where do you keep the deeds to the house? They should be in a safe place. Mom, you should get a complete medical checkup. I'll pay for it. That last offer surprised me. It was the first time in years that she offered to pay for something for me. I accepted. Because I really felt unwell. The chest pains had become more frequent. I got tired climbing the stairs. Sometimes I ran out of breath just hanging up the laundry. It's just accumulated stress, Mom. Years of overworking, she said, as she drove her new SUV toward the hospital. But we'll check you out thoroughly to be sure. They did tests I never could have afforded myself. EKGs, blood tests, X-rays. Nicole knew all the doctors. They treated her with deference, with respect. Dr. Salazar, a pleasure to see you here. I felt proud again. That was my daughter, the girl I sacrificed everything for. A week later, she called me to give me the results. Her voice sounded strange, controlled. Mom, I need you to come to my office. We have to talk about your heart. The diagnosis was like a bucket of ice water. Early stage heart failure. Nothing critical yet, but I needed medication, regular checkups, and care. And how much does the treatment cost? I asked, feeling the floor move under my feet. Nicole closed the results folder. She leaned back in her desk chair. That mahogany desk with her name engraved on a golden plaque. Dr. Nicole Salazar Mendoza, cardiologist. Mom, don't worry about that right now. The important thing is that you take care of yourself. But I need to know, honey. I still work at Mrs. Graham's house and... That's exactly why, Mom. You shouldn't be working anymore. Look at you. Your body is charging its price. She was right, but I also had to eat. I had to pay for electricity, water, gas. My Social Security retirement barely covered the basics. There are cheaper medications, she said after a long silence. Not as effective as the ones you really need, but they could help a little. I felt something break inside me, something small, like a dry branch. And the others? The ones I really need? Nicole sighed, that sigh that was becoming familiar to me, the sigh of someone who has more important things to do. They are expensive, Mom, almost $1,500 a month, and you'd have to take them for the rest of your life, the rest of my life, which according to my sick heart might not be very long. Look, she continued, softening her voice, what you need is to reduce stress, stop working, simplify your life. That big house requires a lot of maintenance, a lot of expenses. Have you thought about moving to something smaller, more manageable? There it was again. The house. Nicole, that's my house, your dad's house, where you... Yes, Mom, I know. But Dad is gone now, and you are alone. It makes no sense for you to cling to a place that is consuming you. I stayed silent. Because maybe she was right. Maybe I was just a stubborn old woman clinging to the past. Think about it, she said, and patted my hand. A pat, like you would give a dog. For now, take these basic medications. We'll talk about the full treatment later. I left that office with a prescription for second-rate medicine and a new weight on my chest that had nothing to do with my sick heart. On the way back home, on the crowded subway, I allowed myself to think the unthinkable. My daughter didn't want to help me. My daughter wanted... What? What did she really want? I arrived home as the sun was setting. The lemon tree cast long shadows over the yard. I touched the walls of my kitchen, the same walls that saw Nicole grow up, that held echoes of laughter and tears and lullabies. Maybe it's me, I said out loud. Maybe I'm selfish for wanting to stay here. But deep down, in that place where we keep the truths we don't want to see, I already knew something wasn't right. I just didn't imagine how far her betrayal would go. Because the worst hadn't arrived yet. If you ever felt like you gave everything for someone who didn't appreciate it, this story is for you. Subscribe to the channel to keep following real stories that need to be told. I thought I was building her future. I was financing my own destruction. My heart was failing, but hers was already dead. 2 months after that diagnosis, my body started charging me the full price. It wasn't just occasional aches anymore. Now I woke up in the pre-dawn hours with my chest constricted, as if someone was sitting on me. My legs swelled so much I could barely put on my shoes. One morning, I couldn't take it anymore. It was 3 a.m. when the pain became unbearable. I called Nicole with trembling hands. "Mom, what is it?" Her voice sounded irritated, sleepy. "Sweetheart, I can't breathe well. My chest." A silence. Then a long sigh. "Did you take your pills?" "Yes, but..." "Then it's anxiety, Mom. Breathe deep. You can't be calling me at this hour for every little discomfort. I have surgery at 7 this morning." And she hung up. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in hand, feeling like I was drowning. Not from lack of air, from something much worse. The next morning, Mrs. Rodriguez found me collapsed in the yard. She was the one who called the ambulance. She was the one who accompanied me to the public hospital. Not Nicole. When my daughter finally arrived at the hospital, 6 hours later, she had that expression I knew well. Annoyance disguised as concern. "Mom, I told you it was nerves. Look at all the fuss you caused." The doctor who treated me spoke clearly. My heart failure had advanced. I needed the full treatment. $1,500 a month in medications. Checkups every 2 weeks. Immediate lifestyle changes. And most importantly, the doctor added, you need to avoid stress, no heavy work, 0 worries. Nicole nodded like the professional doctor she was. But when we were alone, her mask slipped a little. "Mom, this is getting out of control. You can't afford that treatment. I have my own expenses, the kids, the mortgage." "I'm not asking you for anything," I whispered. My voice came out weaker than I wanted. "I know. But you can't continue like this either, working, stressing yourself out, living alone in that huge house that requires constant maintenance." There it was again, the house. "I've been thinking," she continued, pulling her chair closer. "And I think the time has come to make smart decisions, for your own good." She took some papers out of her bag, official papers she had prepared, as if she had been waiting for this moment. "This is a power of attorney. Something temporary, just so I can help you manage your affairs if something happens to you. Your accounts, your documents, the house." My heart skipped a beat, and this time it wasn't from the illness. "I don't understand, honey. Why do you need that?" "Because be realistic, Mom. You are 78 and your heart isn't working well anymore. If something happens to you, who will be able to act quickly? Think about the kids, about your inheritance. Everything needs to be in order." She used my grandchildren, Sam and Mia, the same children who barely acknowledged me when they visited, but who now appeared in her speech as urgent reasons to sign. "Besides," she lowered her voice more, looking around as if someone could hear us, "if you sell the house and move to a small, more manageable place, you could use that money for your treatment, to live your last years peacefully." Last years. She said it just like that, without a filter. "I don't want to sell my house, Nicole. I'm not saying you sell it now, just that we have everything prepared, for caution." Something in her tone. something calculated, rehearsed. But I was tired, scared. I had just collapsed. My heart was a ticking time bomb. It's just for security, Mom, so I can help you if you can't make decisions. You trust me, don't you? That question was the perfect trap. How could I say no to the daughter I sacrificed everything for? How could I admit that I was beginning to doubt her? I signed. With a trembling hand, with a knot in my throat, I signed that damn paper. Nicole smiled, a smile that should have warned me about everything. She put the documents back in her bag with quick, efficient movements. Perfect. Now rest. I'll take care of everything. That night, alone in my hospital bed, with the sound of machines beeping around me, I remembered something I had forgotten, or that I had wanted to forget. 2 weeks earlier, when Nicole was reviewing my important documents, she found my wedding ring. That white gold ring with a small diamond that my husband gave me more than 50 years ago. Mom, do you still wear this? It's too heavy for your swollen fingers. She took it between her fingers, evaluating it like someone evaluating merchandise. You should keep it in a safe place. Or better, let's sell it. You could get about $2,000. It would help with your expenses. I took it off that afternoon. I told her yes, because I needed money for the upcoming doctor's visit, because she convinced me it was the logical thing to do. I watched her take it away. The last physical piece of my marriage, of my youth. From when someone loved me without asking for anything in return. Don't worry, Mom. I'll get you the best price. I never saw that money. When I asked her about it weeks later, she told me she had used it to cover some urgent expenses of mine that she had paid for. She never specified what they were. Now, lying in that hospital bed, I finally understood what was happening. My daughter wasn't taking care of me. She was taking everything from me, slowly, methodically, with the precision of a surgeon who knows exactly where to cut. And I had just given her the legal scalpel to finish the job. She convinced me it was for my own good, while she planned to keep everything. I left the hospital a week later with a bag full of cheap medications and a signed paper that took away control of my own life, although I didn't know it yet. Nicole became more present, but not in the way a mother would want. She came to check things, to move papers, to take pictures of the corners of my house with her phone. Just documenting the current condition, Mom, for the insurance. What insurance? She never explained to me. One afternoon, she arrived with David and a man she introduced as a property appraiser. She didn't ask me if they could enter. They simply did. The man walked through my house with a tablet, taking notes, measuring walls, evaluating every corner as if I wasn't there. As if it wasn't mine anymore. Mom, it's just to get an idea of the value, just in case. Just in case what? But I didn't ask anymore. Because every time I did, Nicole sighed with that weariness that made me feel like a burden. The appraiser left, leaving behind a folder. Nicole put it away quickly, but I managed to see the number, $650,000. That night I couldn't sleep. My little house was worth that much. The place where I raised my daughter alone, where I survived my husband's death, where every wall held priceless memories. On Sundays, Nicole started bringing Sam and Mia more frequently. But something had changed in how they treated me. Grandma, is it true that you're moving soon? Mia asked while playing with her phone, without even looking at me. Moving? No, sweetheart. Who told you that? Mom. She said you can't take care of yourself anymore. That you're going to a place with nurses. I felt the floor open up beneath me. I looked at Nicole, who was making coffee in my kitchen as if nothing was wrong. Honey, what is she talking about? Oh, Mom, kids confuse things. I just told them that there are very nice senior residences, just in case you ever need them. But Mia hadn't confused anything. Her words were too specific. Sam didn't even participate in the conversation. He was immersed in his video game. These were my grandchildren. the children for whom I supposedly had to organize my inheritance. That afternoon, after they left, I called my cousin Rachel. I needed to talk to someone who knew me for real. "Hope, are you okay? You sound strange." I told her everything, the papers, the appraiser, the constant insinuations about moving. Rachel kept silent for a long time. "Cousin, I don't like this at all. Nicole is planning something." "Don't say that. She's my daughter. She's just worried about me." "Worried? A worried daughter helps you with your medicine. She doesn't pressure you to sign papers. Be very careful, Hope. Very careful." But I still didn't want to see. Because accepting the truth meant accepting that I had sacrificed 15 years of my life for someone who only expected me to die so she could keep the little I had. The following week, Nicole arrived with a new folder. She was smiling, but it was that professional smile she used with her patients. "Mom, I found the perfect solution. Look." They were brochures for senior residences, places with nice names: Golden Sunset, Gardens of Peace, Hope Villa. "This one is very good. It has 24-hour nurses, meals included, recreational activities. And the best part, it only costs $1,200 a month. With what we would get from selling the house, you could pay for years in advance and have enough left over for your medical treatment." Every word was like a stab. "I'm not selling my house, Nicole." Her smile hardened. "Mom, be realistic. You're 78, a failing heart. How much longer do you think you can take care of this place? What if you fall down the stairs and no one finds you?" She was using my fear, my age, my illness, everything that made me vulnerable. "In a residence, you would be safe, cared for. I could sleep peacefully knowing you are okay." But it wasn't for me. It was never for me. "Think about it," she said, leaving the brochures on my table. "You don't have to decide today, but you also can't keep denying reality." When I closed the door behind her, I allowed myself to cry. Cry for everything I had endured, everything I didn't want to admit. My daughter was pushing me out of my own home, slowly, methodically, with arguments that sounded reasonable to anyone who listened. "It's for your own good, Mom." But when does someone's good involve stripping them of everything they love? I sat on my sofa, the same one where I rocked her as a baby, where I taught her to read, where we cried together when her dad died. And at that moment, something inside me began to change. Fear began to transform into something different, something I hadn't felt in years. Rage. Because maybe my heart was failing, but my dignity was still beating strong. She made me a burden, in front of everyone who knew me. My sister Laura's original Letitia birthday was the day everything became public. She was turning 75 and organized a family dinner at her house in Long Island. The whole family would be there, cousins, nephews, even some close neighbors. Nicole insisted on picking me up. "You can't go alone on public transport, Mom. What if you get dizzy?" I should have seen the trap. We arrived late. Everyone was already seated around the tables in the garden. The smell of BBQ ribs and freshly made sauce filled the air. A local band, original mariachis, was playing in the background. It was a joyful party. Until Nicole opened her mouth. "Sorry for the delay. Mom took a long time to get ready. You know how it is. At their age, everything takes triple the time." Awkward laughter. I felt the heat rush to my face. I sat next to my cousin Rachel, who squeezed my hand under the table. During dinner, I tried to participate in the conversations, to laugh, to be myself. But Nicole watched me like a hawk. When I told an anecdote about Mrs. Rodriguez, she interrupted me. "Mom, you've told that story 3 times already. Do you remember?" It wasn't true. I had never told it there, but everyone looked at me with that expression. That mix of pity and discomfort that people give when they think you're losing your mind. "Oh, sorry," I murmured, looking down at my plate. Later, my niece Gabriella asked about my house, about my lemon tree. Before I could answer, Nicole intervened. "Oh, Gabby, let's not ask too much about that. Mom gets sentimental. She's in a difficult process of accepting that she has to let go of certain things." Rachel dropped her fork loudly. "Let go of what things, Nicole?" "Well, the house is huge for her alone. We've already talked about more manageable options, places where she can be cared for, accompanied." The silence fell heavily over the table. Everyone was looking at me now, as if I were a child incapable of making my own decisions. "Hope, is that true?" Laura asked with genuine concern. I opened my mouth to speak, but Nicole was faster. "Mom is still in denial. It's normal. Seniors cling to their routines even if they are dangerous for them. As a doctor, I see it all the time." Doctor. She used her title as a weapon, as unquestionable authority. Her heart is very delicate. She can't be alone, climbing stairs, carrying things. One mistake and... She snapped her fingers. "That's why I'm looking for what's best for her." My sister Laura nodded, convinced. "It's good that you worry so much about your mother, Nicole. Not all daughters are like that." I felt nauseous. I wanted to scream that it was all a lie, that she wasn't taking care of me, that she was stripping me of everything, but who would believe me? There was the successful doctor, worried about her poor sick and stubborn mother. And there I was, the senile old woman who wouldn't accept reality. David, sitting at the other end of the table, did not participate in the conversation. He looked at his beer with an uncomfortable expression. When our eyes met, I saw something there. Guilt, maybe. Or perhaps just discomfort. After eating, while the women were tidying up the kitchen, I heard Nicole talking to my cousins in the hallway. It's hard to see her like this. A few days ago, she called me at 3 a.m. about a pain that turned out to be gas. Another time, she left the stove on all night. She has moments of lucidity, but also confusion. Lies. It was all lies, but said with such conviction that even I doubted my own memory for a second. "Poor thing," I heard someone say. "And poor you, Nicole. What a burden." Burden. That word pierced me. Rachel found me crying in the bathroom. She hugged me tightly without saying anything, because there were no words for this. "She's destroying you in front of everyone," she finally whispered. "She's building a narrative, so that when she takes your house, everyone thinks she did the right thing." She was right. Nicole was planting the story. Senile mother, sacrificing daughter. When the time came to take everything from me, no one would question anything. Everyone would say, "Thank goodness Nicole was there to take care of her." On the way back home, Nicole was driving, humming, happy, satisfied with her performance. "The party was nice, right, Mom?" I didn't answer. I looked out the window at the streets of the city where I was born, the city where I built my life, where I buried my husband, where I raised this woman alone who was now treating me like an inconvenience. "Mom, don't get angry. I'm just being realistic. Someone has to be." When we arrived at my house, I got out of the car without saying goodbye. I heard her voice behind me. "Think about what we talked about. Time is running out, Mom. Your heart isn't going to wait for you to be ready." I closed the door. I leaned against it. And for the first time in my life, I felt real fear of my own daughter. Because she was no longer hiding. She was no longer pretending. The public humiliation had been her way of telling me, "I don't care what you think anymore. I'm going to do what I want, and everyone is going to applaud me." But she didn't know one thing, that women of my generation learned to survive worse things than a daughter's betrayal, and that when you have nothing left to lose, you become dangerous. While I was agonizing in the hospital, she changed the locks. It all happened one night in October. I remember the exact date, October 17th, because it was the day I nearly died and the day I lost my home. That afternoon, I felt strange, a crushing weight on my chest that wouldn't go away with the pills, cold sweat, dizziness. I called Nicole 3 times. She didn't answer. At 9 o'clock at night, the pain became unbearable. I called Mrs. Rodriguez with the last breath I had left. Mrs. Hope, my God, don't move. I'm calling the ambulance now. The next thing I remember is bright lights, distant voices, the high-pitched sound of a siren, and darkness. I woke up 3 days later in intensive care. Tubes everywhere, the constant beeping of the machines, a nurse checking my vitals. Relax, ma'am. You had a severe heart attack. You're stable now, but it was very serious. Nicole arrived on the 4th day. Not the 1st, not the 2nd. The 4th. She was wearing dark sunglasses even though we were indoors. She sat by my bed with that expression I knew well. Rehearsed concern. Mom, you gave us a terrible scare. Where were you? My voice came out hoarse, barely a whisper. I was at a medical conference in Miami. I came as soon as I could. A lie. Mrs. Rodriguez later told me she had called her the very night of my heart attack. Nicole chose not to come. The following days were a blur of pain, medications, and loneliness. David came once, uncomfortably, with flowers that he left on the table without saying much. The children never appeared. Only Mrs. Rodriguez came daily. She brought me broth, combed my hair, held my hand. Your daughter is a doctor, and I, who barely finished elementary school, am the one who takes care of you. What an irony, right, Mrs. Hope? Nicole showed up occasionally, always in a rush, always checking her phone, always with that air of making a great sacrifice. I was hospitalized for 12 days. 12 days between life and death. 12 days during which I later learned Nicole was very busy. The day I was discharged, Mrs. Rodriguez was the one who picked me up. Nicole had an urgent surgery. David offered his car, but she needed it. We arrived at my house at sunset. The lemon tree looked beautiful with the golden light of the sun. The bougainvillea of my neighbor peeked over the fence. Everything looked the same, until I tried to open the door. The key wouldn't turn. I tried again. Nothing. Mrs. Rodriguez, something's wrong. She tried too. The lock had been changed. A chill ran through my body that had nothing to do with the weather. I rang the doorbell. No one answered. I knocked on the door. Silence. This can't be happening, I muttered, feeling my legs giving out. I called Nicole. She answered on the 4th ring. Mom? What is it? I can't get into my house. The lock. Ah, yes. I had them changed. For security. While you were in the hospital, I couldn't leave the house vulnerable. And my keys? A silence. Too long. I have them, but Mom, we need to talk. You can't live alone anymore. The heart attack was a clear warning. Nicole, open the door for me. It's my house. Mom, calm down. It's not good for you to get upset. Look, I already spoke with a lawyer. With the power of attorney you signed, I have the authority to make decisions about the property if your health is at risk. And clearly, it is. The world stopped. Mrs. Rodriguez held me because I was literally collapsing. What did you do? What I should have done months ago. I transferred the house to my name. It's legal, Mom. Everything is in order. I did what was best for you. I couldn't breathe. My chest was burning again. I found you a perfect place, a nice assisted living residence in Newark. Clean, safe, with nurses. The first month is already paid. You can move in tomorrow. Nicole, please. This is non-negotiable, Mom. You almost died. Do you want them to find you 3 days later, stiff on the floor of your house? Because that's what will happen. Every word was a slap. I'll come by tomorrow at 10 to take you to see your new home. Pack only what you need. Clothes, personal documents. I'll handle the rest. Nicole, you can't do this to me. It's already done, Mom. And deep down, when you get over your tantrum, you'll thank me." And she hung up. I was left standing there in front of the door of my own home, the house I paid for with 40 years of work, the house where I buried my youth, my dreams, my marriage. Mrs. Rodriguez cried next to me. "This can't be legal. It can't be." But it was. Because I signed, because I trusted, because I was a fool who believed that a mother's love was reciprocated. That night, I slept on Mrs. Rodriguez's sofa. "Tomorrow we're going to a lawyer," she told me. "This won't stand." But I knew the truth. Nicole was a doctor, respected, with resources. I was a sick old woman who had signed papers without reading carefully. Who would believe me? My daughter had pushed me out of my own house while I was agonizing in a hospital. And the worst part, she did it with complete coldness, as if I were already dead. They locked me up like garbage. But my mind was never clearer. The new Dawn residence had nothing new or Dawn-like about it. It was a gray 3-story building in a forgotten neighborhood of Newark, with rusty gates and a smell of cheap disinfectant that couldn't hide other, worse odors. Nicole dropped me off at the entrance with 2 suitcases. "It's temporary, Mom, until you stabilize." Lie number 1000. I was assigned a room on the 2nd floor, 12 square meters that I shared with another elderly woman named Eleanor, who never stopped praying the rosary out loud day and night. A hard bed, a tiny closet, a window with a view of a pizza shop's original tortilleria parking lot. That was all. The first days were a silent hell. I spent them sitting on the edge of my bed, looking at the hospital green walls, feeling my soul slowly extinguishing. The food was awful. Watery broth, chicken tough as shoe leather, stale bread, nothing like my fried eggs and toast, my coffee, or the freshly baked biscuits of Mrs. Rodriguez. But then I met Mr. Stern. He was an 82-year-old man, thin, with a perfectly trimmed white mustache and bright blue eyes that still shone with intelligence. He used an elegant wooden cane and always dressed in a shirt, even if it was just to go down to the dining room. I met him one afternoon in the small backyard of the residence. I was sitting on a bench, watching the hours pass senselessly. "May I?" he asked, pointing to the space next to me. I nodded without much enthusiasm. He sat down with a sigh. He took out a handkerchief and cleaned his glasses. "I hate this place," he said without preamble. "But I suppose you do too." Something in his tone made me smile for the first time in weeks. "Does it show that much?" "Ma'am, you look like someone whose life was stolen." "I know because I have the same look." And so our friendship began. Mr. Stern had been a labor lawyer for 40 years. His wife died 5 years ago. His only son, a successful engineer in Texas, put him in the residence for his own good and kept his apartment in the Bronx. He sold it for $650,000. He gives me $500 a month for my expenses. Do you know how much this place costs? $200. He pays the rest and keeps everything that's left over. It was my story, with other names, other numbers, but the same script. During the following weeks, Mr. Stern became my confidant. I told him everything: the 15 years of sacrifice, the paid loans, the power of attorney, my stolen house. He listened with a lawyer's attention, taking mental notes. "Hope, what they did to you is elder abuse and fraud, possibly fraud. That power of attorney you signed was temporary and specific. It didn't give her the right to transfer property." "But I signed. You signed under pressure while you were sick and vulnerable. That can be fought." For the first time in months, I felt something akin to hope. I also met Laura, a 35-year-old nurse who worked the night shift. She was the only employee who treated us like people and not furniture. One morning, she found me crying in the hallway. I couldn't sleep. Eleanor's snoring and the weight of my loss were suffocating me. "Mrs. Hope, what's wrong?" I told her everything. Between tears and contained rage, I told her everything. Laura squeezed my hands. My grandmother went through something similar. My uncle took her land in Oklahoma. She died of sadness 6 months later. Don't let that happen to you. But what can I do? I don't have money for lawyers. I don't have strength. You have reason, and you have witnesses. I've seen you. You're lucid, clear. If your daughter says you're senile, it's a lie, and that can be proven. Mr. Stern, Laura, and I began meeting in secret. In the garden, during the nights, when the others were sleeping. We need to document everything, Mr. Stern said. Every visit from your daughter. Every word she says. And we need to find witnesses who can confirm your house's condition, the real value, the circumstances of the transfer. I know lawyers, he added. Good ones. The kind who fight lost causes. But we need to build a solid case. For the first time in months, my brain started working again. I wasn't the defeated old woman Nicole wanted me to be. I was Hope, the woman who survived her husband's death, who raised a daughter alone, who worked triple shifts without breaking. And if I could handle all that, I could handle this. What do I need to do? I asked, with a voice I hadn't heard in a long time. A firm voice. Mr. Stern smiled. First, stop crying and start documenting. Second, contact people who can testify in your favor. Third, he paused dramatically. Make your daughter so confident that she makes a mistake. Laura took out her phone. And I can record, when she comes, when she speaks, everything you need. Something changed in me that night. Pain turned into determination, sadness into strategy. Nicole had taken my house, but not my dignity, and much less my ability to fight. I stopped crying and started documenting every lie. Mr. Stern got me a small notebook. Here you will write down everything. Dates, conversations, broken promises, everything. I became a detective of my own life. First mission, get copies of the documents I signed. Mr. Stern had a contact at the public registry who, for $50, got us copies of the power of attorney and the property transfer. When we read them, Mr. Stern hit the table with contained fury. I knew it. This power was temporary. 6 months maximum and only for basic medical and banking transactions. It never gave her authority to transfer property. This is pure fraud. So can I get my house back? If we prove there was coercion, abuse of trust, and that you were vulnerable, yes. But we need more than this. Laura proved to be an invaluable ally. When Nicole came to visit me, she found reasons to be nearby. Organizing medications, checking vitals, always with her phone in her pocket, recording. In one of those visits, Nicole complained to the director of the residence. My mother needs more sedatives. She gets anxious, combative. She doesn't want to accept her reality. Laura recorded everything, including the part where Nicole added, "The less lucid she is, the better for everyone." Those words devastated me. But they also gave me ammunition. Mr. Stern taught me something important. The most dangerous enemy is the one who is overconfident. Nicole thinks she has already won. That will be her undoing. My cousin Rachel was the next key piece. I called her from the residence's payphone. "Cousin, I need your help, but it has to be a secret." Rachel came to see me a week later. She pretended to be a new resident visiting the facilities. We sat in the garden like two strangers. I gave her specific instructions. Talk to the neighbors of my old house, especially Mrs. Rodriguez. Get testimonies of how I lived, my mental state, how Nicole pressured me. "And there's something else," I added. "I need you to go to the notary where the transfer was made. Ask who was present, what documents Nicole presented, if I was there." Rachel squeezed my hand. "They are going to give you your house back, cousin. I swear it." 2 weeks later, Rachel returned with information that changed everything. Mrs. Rodriguez gave a heartbreaking testimony, how she found me collapsed, how Nicole took days to come to the hospital, how she saw men changing the locks while I was agonizing. Mr. Ramirez, my lifelong neighbor, confirmed that I was always perfectly lucid, that I took care of my house, paid my bills, lived independently. But most importantly, Rachel spoke with the notary. Hope, your daughter presented the power of attorney and a false medical certificate that said you were in a state of advanced dementia and could not make decisions. You were never present for the transfer. My blood boiled. A false medical certificate. She, being a doctor, had falsified documents. That's a serious crime, said Mr. Stern when I told him. With this and the recordings, we have a solid case. But we needed one more thing, for Nicole to sink herself with her own words. Mr. Stern devised a plan. You are going to ask her to come. You are going to tell her that you are ready to sign more papers, that you accept everything. You are going to make her feel secure. And then, you are going to ask her specific questions while Laura records. It was risky, but it was our only chance. I called Nicole. I faked a weak, defeated voice. Honey, I need to see you. I want to sort out some pending papers about the house. I heard her smile over the phone. Of course, Mom. I'll go Saturday. I'm glad you're finally being reasonable. That Saturday, I set the perfect stage. I asked the director to let us use the private visiting room. My daughter and I need privacy for legal matters. Laura hid her phone behind a flower vase in recording mode. When Nicole arrived, she brought a new folder. More papers for me to sign, surely. Mom, you look better. The rest is doing you good. I swallowed my rage. I smiled like the foolish old woman she thought I was. Honey, I've been thinking a lot about the house, about everything. I'm glad you've come to your senses. I just have a few doubts. The house was worth $650,000, right? More or less. But with the repairs it needed, I sold it for $550,000. A lie. Mr. Stern found out she hadn't sold it. It was in her name, waiting for the perfect moment. And that money? Where is it? Nicole sighed in annoyance. Mom, it's invested. For your future. For when you need more care. Can I see it? The investment papers? Her face changed. You don't need to see anything. I'll take care of everything. That's why you gave me the power, remember? Yes, but that power was temporary, for medical emergencies. It was for what I considered necessary. Her voice hardened. Mom, we are not going to start this again. It's just that I don't understand, honey. I worked 15 years to pay for your career. Why do I feel like you are now charging me for every dollar I invested in you? The silence was heavy. Nicole left the folder on the table. Do you want the truth, Mom? I nodded, feeling my heart accelerate. And then she confessed everything I needed to destroy her. I set a trap, and she fell like the ambitious woman she always was. Nicole leaned back in the chair, crossed her legs, and looked at me with a coldness I will never forget. Do you want the truth? Fine. It's time for you to be realistic. I kept my composure. Behind the vase, Laura's phone was still recording. Mom, you already served your purpose. You paid for my career. That was the only thing I really needed from you. It was your obligation as a mother, wasn't it? To give me the tools to succeed. Every word was a knife. The house should have always been mine. I'm an only child. Eventually, it was going to be mine. I just sped up the process. But you left me with nothing. My voice trembled. I didn't have to fake it. I left you with a roof, food, and medical care. What else do you need at your age? Why waste money on an old woman who has no future? There it was. She had said it, in those exact words. Besides, let's be honest. You already lived your life. You raised your daughter, you got married, you worked. That's it. Now it's my turn to enjoy what belongs to me. And my last years? My memories in that house? Nicole let out a dry laugh. Oh, Mom, memories are in your head, not on four walls. Get over it. I breathed deeply. Mr. Stern had prepared me for this. Push her more. Get her to let everything out. What if I hadn't signed that power? What would you have done? Her smile twisted. I would have found a way. A dementia certificate is not hard to get when you know doctors. A signature here, another there. Mom, I'm a doctor. I know how the system works. She had just confessed to forgery of documents. But you made things easier for me by signing. You were always so trusting, so naive. She leaned forward. Look, I'm going to tell you something I never told you. Those 15 years you worked like a donkey for me. I never asked you to. It was your decision to sacrifice yourself. I just accepted the gift. It was your education, your future. And I thanked you by being successful, but I don't owe you my entire life for that. I'm not going to be your pension or your company because you decided to invest in me. Tears ran down my cheeks. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of contained rage. The children, Sam and Mia. What did you tell them about me? The truth. That you're old, that your mind is failing, that it's better for you to be somewhere you're cared for. They understand. They don't need a senile grandmother in their lives. Senile? Nicole, I'm perfectly fine. Oh, yeah? She laughed cruelly. Then why are you locked up here? Why did you sign everything I put in front of you? Why is no one in the family defending you? She stood up, grabbed her bag. Because everyone knows I did the right thing. Poor Nicole, carrying her sick mother. What a sacrifice. What dedication. No one questions anything. She walked toward the door but stopped. Oh, and about the house money. It's not invested for you. I used it as a down payment for a condo on the beach in Boca Raton, Florida. David and I needed a place to vacation. You don't need vacations anymore, Mom. You just need a place to die peacefully. She opened the door. I'll see you in 2 weeks, or maybe 3. I have a very busy schedule. And she left. I remained seated, trembling. But not with fear, with power. Laura ran in 2 minutes later. I got it all. Every word, Mrs. Hope. Mr. Stern appeared behind her. He had been listening from the hallway. It's enough. With this, we sink her. Rachel was there too. She had come to give moral support. She cried with indignation. That disgrace! How can someone be so cruel to their own mother? That night, in my shared room with Eleanor and her endless rosaries, I listened to the full recording. Every poisonous word. Every arrogant confession. Nicole had fallen into the perfect trap. Her arrogance had blinded her so much that she didn't see the blow coming. Mr. Stern brought his contact. Attorney Marcial Contreras, a 60-year-old lawyer, gray-haired, with a bulldog face and a reputation for never losing elder abuse cases. He listened to the recording in silence. When he finished, he took off his glasses and cleaned them slowly. Mrs. Hope, this is pure gold. Confession of fraud, falsification of medical documents, aggravated elder abuse, dispossession. Your daughter is not only going to lose the case, she can face criminal charges. Criminal? She is a doctor. Falsifying medical certificates is a serious crime. She can lose her professional license, her career. I felt a slight flicker of doubt. She was my daughter, after all. But I remembered her words. An old woman who has no future. How long will it take? I asked. With this evidence, the testimonies, and the documentation we have already gathered, we can file the lawsuit this week. The normal legal process would take months, but with such strong evidence, I can request immediate precautionary measures. What does that mean? That we can freeze the house, prevent her from selling it or mortgaging it while the case is resolved, and hopefully get a sentence in 3 or 4 months. 3 or 4 months. It seemed like an eternity. But after what had happened, I could wait. Let's do it, I said, with a firmness I hadn't felt in years. Mr. Stern smiled. There's the hope I knew, the one who doesn't give up. We signed the papers that same afternoon. The lawsuit was filed the following Monday, and I prepared for war. Because Nicole didn't know who she had messed with. She thought she had destroyed a weak old woman, but she awakened a lioness. Justice didn't come from heaven. I built it with my own trembling hands. The legal notification reached Nicole on a Tuesday morning. She was in her office when the court clerk knocked on her door. I knew because she called me 30 minutes later, furies like I had never heard her. "What the hell did you do, Mom?" Her voice trembled with rage. I remained calm. Mr. Stern had trained me for this moment. Taking back what's mine, Nicole. Do you have any idea what you just did? The ridicule you're going to put me through? I'm a respected professional. You're a thief, and now everyone is going to know. Dead silence on the other end. You're going to regret this. I'm going to prove that you're demented, that you were manipulated, that... I have recordings, Nicole, of everything you said, of how you confessed to falsifying documents, of how you called me an old woman with no future. I heard her breathe heavily. Then she hung up. Attorney Contreras had done an impeccable job. The lawsuit included dispossession, fraud, aggravated elder abuse, falsification of documents, and patrimonial violence against an elder. The precautionary measures worked. The house was frozen. Nicole could not sell, rent, or mortgage it until the case was resolved. But the best part came later. David called me 2 days after the notification. His voice sounded tired, ashamed. "Mrs. Hope, I need to talk to you, alone." We met at a coffee shop near the residence. David had deep bags under his eyes. His hair was messy. He wasn't the neat man I knew. "I didn't know anything," he said before sitting down. "I swear on my children that I didn't know how she treated you. The house, the false documents, nothing. How is that possible? You live with her." Nicole hid everything from me. She told me that you had signed voluntarily, that you were happy in the residence. I wanted to believe her. He looked down. But when the lawsuit arrived and I read the accusations, I confronted her. And what did she say? She went crazy. She shouted that you were ungrateful, that after everything she did for you, this is how you repaid her. I told her, "What did you do for her? She paid for your entire career." David pulled an envelope from his briefcase. "I found this in her study. Documents she planned to use in her defense, the false medical certificate she presented to the notary. Emails where she was pricing the Florida condo using the money from your house. Everything." He handed me the envelope. My hands trembled as I opened it. "Why are you giving me this?" "Because I have a mother too. And if someone did what Nicole did to you, I would want them to pay. Besides..." He paused for a long time. "Sam and Mia found out everything. They heard the recording you presented in the lawsuit." "And how are they?" "Devastated. Mia won't speak to her mom. Sam is in therapy." It broke their hearts to know that their grandmother needed them, and they believed the lies. The tears came without warning. They are not to blame. I know. That's why I want you to know that they are going to testify in your favor if necessary, and I will too. David became a key witness. He who had lived closely through Nicole's transformation into a cold, calculating woman. The trial was set for mid-December, 3 months after we filed the lawsuit. The courtroom was packed. Nicole arrived with her lawyer, a guy in an expensive suit who looked more like a salesman than a litigator. She wore dark glasses, as if she were a victim of something. I arrived with Mr. Stern on one side, Laura on the other, and Rachel behind. My small army. The judge was a serious-looking man in his 60s. He first listened to Nicole's defense. Her lawyer tried to paint me as a senile old woman manipulated by strangers who wanted to keep my money. That Nicole had acted out of love, protecting my property. Then it was our turn. Attorney Contreras presented the recordings. In that silent room, Nicole's voice resonated like thunder. You already served your purpose. It was your obligation as a mother. I'm not going to waste money on an old woman who has no future. I watched Nicole sink into her chair, how her lawyer closed his eyes resignedly. Then came the testimonies. Mrs. Rodriguez cried, telling how she found me collapsed. Mr. Ramirez confirmed my mental lucidity. Rachel narrated the systematic manipulations, but the final blow was David. He presented the documents Nicole was hiding, the false medical certificate, with the forged signature of a colleague, the emails about the Florida condo, everything. My wife did not act out of love, David said firmly. She acted out of ambition, and the worst thing is that she destroyed the only person who truly loved her unconditionally. Nicole tried to speak. She mumbled something about misunderstandings, about misinterpretations. The judge raised his hand. Enough. Mia and Sam were in the room. Mia cried silently. Sam looked at me with a mixture of shame and sadness. After 2 hours of presenting evidence, the judge retired to deliberate. He returned 30 minutes later. I have carefully reviewed all the evidence presented, the recordings, the testimonies, the documents, and my verdict is clear. I felt my heart jump out of my chest. The house is returned to its rightful owner, Mrs. Hope Mendoza Garcia. Furthermore, the defendant must pay a compensation for moral damages of $65,000, plus the medical expenses Mrs. Hope had to cover alone during this period. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Additionally, I have ordered a criminal investigation into the falsification of medical documents. The case will be turned over to the corresponding prosecutor's office. Nicole jumped up. This is unfair. She manipulated me. I only wanted to protect her. The judge looked at her sternly. Dr. Salazar, I suggest you remain silent. Your own words condemned you. And just like that, in that cold courtroom, I won back my life. I didn't just win back my house. I taught her the meaning of losing everything. The sentence fell like a hammer on Nicole's perfect life, and I was there to see it crumble, piece by piece. The first thing was her reputation. The case leaked to the media. Not with all the details, but enough. Doctor dispossesses sick mother of her property. The headlines were merciless. Her colleagues at Mount Sinai found out. The whispers began in the hallways. Patients started canceling appointments. Who wants to be treated by a doctor capable of doing that to her own mother? The hospital management asked her to take some time off, an elegant euphemism for, we don't want your scandal here. The criminal investigation progressed quickly. The colleague whose signature she forged on the medical certificate filed charges. The medical board opened a review process of her professional license. Nicole, the successful cardiologist, the respected professional, was collapsing. But what hurt her the most was losing her family. David filed for divorce 2 weeks after the trial. He told me when he came to help me move back into my house. I can't continue with someone capable of this. The values I thought we shared never existed. And the children? They are with me. Nicole can see them, but with supervision. They asked for it themselves. The day I returned to my house was bittersweet. The property was intact, but it felt empty, cold, as if the months of abandonment had stolen its soul. Mr. Stern, Laura, Rachel, and Mrs. Rodriguez helped me clean, ventilate, and bring it back to life. David brought furniture that Nicole had taken out. Sam and Mia came to help too. Grandma, forgive us, Mia cried in my arms. We believed her lies. We thought you, shh, sweetheart, you are victims too. She deceived everyone. It was Sam who told me the worst, or perhaps the best, depending on how you look at it. Mom had to sell the Florida condo. She needed money to pay your compensation and her lawyers. She lost everything she invested. Poetic justice in its maximum expression. The place she bought with the money from my house, the symbol of her betrayal, she had to sell to pay me. A month after the trial, Nicole tried to visit me. She arrived alone, unannounced, in the middle of the afternoon. I saw her from the window. She looked destroyed, thin, with unkempt hair, wrinkled clothes. She was no longer the neat, successful doctor. She rang the doorbell. I didn't open right away. I let her wait. When I finally opened the door, she stood there, not knowing what to say. "Mom, What do you want, Nicole? I'm sorry. I need you to forgive me. I lost everything. My job, my marriage, my children hate me. I have nothing." Those words, the same ones I could have said months ago. "And you come looking for forgiveness because you need it? Not because you're truly repentant?" she cried. Real tears this time, with no calculation behind them. I don't know what happened to me. Ambition, money, wanting to give my children what I didn't have. I got lost along the way. You had everything, Nicole. A mother who killed herself working for you. An education that opened every door, but it wasn't enough. I know, and now I've lost everything. I looked at her. I really looked at her, and I saw a broken woman, but I didn't feel the urge to hug her, to comfort her as I would have before, because some wounds are too deep. Nicole, for months I wondered what I did wrong, how I failed as a mother for you to come to this. But now I understand that it wasn't my fault. I gave you unconditional love. You chose to turn it into a commercial transaction. Mom, please. I'm not going to deny you forgiveness, but I'm not going to forget either. You can continue your life, rebuild what you destroyed, but don't expect me to be there to pick you up every time you fall. She took something out of her bag, a key. It's for the house, the last copy I had left. I took it. Do you know what the saddest thing about all this is? If you had asked me for help, if you had been honest with me about your money problems, I would have found a way to help you, because that's how mothers love, unconditionally. I know, she whispered. That's why it hurts more. She turned to leave, but she stopped. The children want to see you. David says it's fine. Tell them I'll expect them on Sunday, for lunch. I'm going to make chicken pot pie, original mole. She nodded and left, walking slowly, hunched over, as if carrying the weight of the world. Did I pity her? Yes. She was my daughter, after all. Did I forgive her completely? No, because true forgiveness takes time, and some betrayals leave permanent scars. That night, sitting in my living room, with a hot cup of coffee in my hands, I looked around. My house, my home, recovered. Mr. Stern had died 2 weeks after the trial. His heart simply stopped while he slept. But he died happy, knowing he had helped win one last battle. Laura continued to visit me. She was no longer my nurse. She was my friend. Rachel came every week with sweet rolls and neighborhood gossip. Mrs. Rodriguez kept leaving small plates of food at my door, although I no longer needed them. I had lost months of my life. I had suffered betrayals I never imagined. But I had also found something I didn't know I had. Strength, dignity, the ability to get up when everything seemed lost. Nicole took my house for a while, but I took something from her that she can never recover, her peace, because now she will live the rest of her life knowing that she destroyed the only person who loved her without asking for anything in return. And that is the true poetic justice. At 78, I learned that it's never too late to defend yourself, and it's never too early to reap what you sow. 6 months have passed since the trial. 6 months in which my life was rebuilt in ways I never imagined. My house filled with life again. Not in the way I expected, but in a more authentic way, more real. Sundays became sacred. Sam and Mia come to eat. I teach them to make biscuits by hand. I tell them stories from when their mom was a child. The good stories, before ambition consumed her. "Grandma, why did Mom change so much?" Mia asked me one afternoon while we were grinding the spices for the chicken pot pie. "Sometimes, sweetheart, success makes us forget where we came from. Your mom got lost along the way, but that doesn't mean she can't find herself again." "Do you think she will?" "That depends on her. I already did my part." David also comes occasionally. He feels guilty for not having seen the signs, but I don't hold a grudge against him. "Mrs. Hope, if I had known..." "It's okay, son. The important thing is that you were there when it mattered. That's worth more than any apology." With the compensation Nicole paid, I could finally afford my full medical treatment. The medicines I really need, regular checkups, a dignified life. I still work, but now by choice, not necessity. I sell my muffins on weekends because I like it, because it's my tradition. The people in the neighborhood say they are the best in Queens. Mrs. Rodriguez and I became inseparable. We share coffee in the afternoons. We laugh at the soap operas. We keep each other company in the silence. "Mrs. Hope, you are the bravest woman I know." "I wasn't brave, Rodriguez. I just stopped being afraid." And it's true. For years I lived in fear of bothering, of asking, of claiming what was mine. Fear that my daughter would stop loving me if I wasn't the perfect sacrificing mother. But that fear almost killed me. Literally. Now I live differently, with my head held high, knowing that my worth is not in what I can give, but in who I am. Nicole is rebuilding her life. Slowly. She found a job at a smaller clinic with a much lower salary. The criminal case ended with probation and community service. She lost her license for 2 years. I see her from afar sometimes. We cross paths at the market, on the street. We greet each other with a nod. Nothing more. Do I love her? Yes. She is my daughter. That doesn't change. Do I trust her? No, and maybe I never will completely. Do I need her? Not anymore. And that was the most liberating discovery of all. One day, 3 months after the trial, a letter arrived at my door. It was from Nicole. Handwritten, not printed. Pages and pages of apologies, acknowledgement, and pain. "Mom, I don't expect you to forgive me. I'm not even sure I deserve it. But I need you to know that every day I carry what I did. Not because of the judge's sentence, but because of the sentence of my own conscience. I destroyed the most valuable thing I had for things that are worthless. The condo, the money, the prestige, it all went away. But you are still there. And I am here, alone with my decisions. Maybe someday I can look you in the eyes without feeling this shame that is eating me alive. In the meantime, I just want you to be happy. To live in peace in the house that was always yours. Your daughter who learned the hardest lesson. I put that letter in the drawer where I keep my treasures. I didn't throw it away, because forgiveness is a process, not an event. The lemon tree in my yard bloomed this month. Mr. Stern once told me, "The trees that survive the strongest storms are the ones that yield the sweetest fruits." He was right. This story, my story, is not just about a recovered house or a daughter who betrayed. It's about finding strength when you thought you had none left. It's about knowing that your worth doesn't depend on how much you give, but on how much you respect who you are. It's about understanding that true love never humiliates, never dispossesses, never destroys. And it's about learning that sometimes the families we choose are stronger than the families by blood. Today, at 78, with my heart weak but my spirit unbroken, I live each day as a gift. I take care of my petunias, I make my coffee, I greet my neighbors, I hug my grandchildren. And when I sit in my living room, in that armchair where I rocked Nicole as a baby, I no longer feel pain. I feel peace. Because the true wealth is not in what you possess, but in what you don't allow them to take from you. your value, your dignity, your right to be treated with respect. Those things no one can steal from you, unless you let them. And I don't let anything anymore. If this story touched something in your heart, if you ever felt like you gave everything for someone who didn't appreciate it, or if you know someone who is going through something similar, leave me a comment telling me your experience. I would love to know from what part of the world you are listening to me. And remember, it's never too late to defend what is yours. It's never too late to regain your dignity. It's never too late to bloom again. Like this video if you think Hope did the right thing. Subscribe to the channel for more real stories that need to be told, and share this with someone who needs to hear that you can overcome things. Because sometimes, the best victories are not the ones that come easy. They are the ones you build with your own trembling hands. Until the next story, and remember, your life is yours. Defend it. The end.